the challenge was to make sure that if someone had not seen part one, he will still enjoy part two. Sure. That part two will be an autonomous movie. Still, it's the direct continuity of part one, but to make sure that you can enjoy part two without having seen part one.
This is how I feel that when people watch the original Star Wars films, walking out of the film, this is how I felt, after this. Absolutely incredible. I was blown away by every single shot, every single thing you did. It's damn near like the perfect movie. It's incredible.
Thank you.
What did you find to be the most difficult part of adapting the second half of the book that's filled with more otherworldly elements in this film?
Two things. At first, it was technically much more challenging because there's much more action, and we had the same, let's say, the same time frame to shoot and part two and part one, where it was about the same amount of time, and it was more challenging for my crew because technically it was much more complex. And also from the screenwriting point of view, I felt that the challenge was to make sure that if someone had not seen part one, he will still enjoy part two. Sure. That part two will be an autonomous movie. Still, it's the direct continuity of part one, but to make sure that you can enjoy part two without having seen part one. And that was one of the challenges in the editing and the screenwriting.
Incredible. Yeah. Did filming part one and two separately rather than together change your approach to anything at all? Or did the story always stay the same? Or did your experience on Dune 1 kind of change your approach to Dune 2?
Absolutely. First of all, I'm alive. If I had shoot both movies simultaneously, I will be dead right now. It's too much exhausting. But it allowed me to rest a little and I learned so much things like doing part one. I learned so much thing about my craft that I was able to put back into my toolbox became bigger and part one and allowed me to, because part two was again a much bigger challenge technically.
What were some of the other big changes you made from the book to the film?
There's one major that is, and I want to be careful with spoilers right now, because I love to talk about that once the movie's out.
Sure.
But I will say that when Frank Herbert wrote the book, and then when the book came out, he was disappointed how people perceived Paul Atreides. At the time, he felt that people were talking about Paul as a hero.
Sure.
And for him, he was an anti-hero. He was a dark figure. He was the book was a warning for him about a messianic figure, and for that he wrote Dune Messiah to correct and to make sure that people understood his intention. And me, I knew that story. I knew I had the benefit of having read Dune Messiah, so I wrote part two, having that in mind, and that is why Shani's character is slightly different in my adaptation than in the book, and helped me to bring the initial intention of Frank Herbert to the screen.
Look, you've seen Timothée Chalamet evolve as an actor from Dune 1 to Dune 2, and you even said that Timothée was learning to find his focus on such a large production as a leading man on the first film. How did Timothée's evolution as an actor help kind of help create Paul's evolution that we see in Dune 2?
It was for me phenomenal to see him coming. He was a boy in part one, and then bringing this boy to being a man, to become that charismatic dark figure, to become this power that is the Lisan al-Gaib on the screen. It was like, for me, I thought Timothée did a fantastic job. And I was moved many times to see how he, as an actor on screen, he get much more confident and even better than on set, as he really became a real leading man. He was more. I felt he was much more comfortable in part two. He knew how to protect himself, his focus. I mean, and to become someone who brings all of the actors together in a high spirit. I really love working with Timothée much more even than it was a great experience in part one, fantastic experience in part two.
This film is absolutely a masterpiece. Back-to-back masterpieces, sir. And like that worm riding scene, I felt like I was riding that worm. That
was the idea.
Incredible. Thank you so much for your time.